take projection.
Welcome everybody to Taking on Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, roll tide.
Roll Tide. Woo.
Yes, it was a good Iron Bowl Saturday. In the end, it
In the
wasn't
end,
good for about 2 hours and 59 minutes. But
man,
so let's just hop right into that. Alabama, a miracle win, 4th and Milrow, 4th and 31, disaster in the pasture,
that's the
whatever.
funniest one.
Disaster. I like that one. Yeah. It's just an amazing result. Alabama, it started out great. Auburn looked terrible in their first couple of possessions. Alabama
Yeah,
marched down, scored a touchdown. It looked like, okay, good. We're going to do what we should do on paper and
right,
beat the hell out of these guys. And then, of
exactly.
course, that Jordan-Hare voodoo, that Iron Bowl
Mm-hmm.
voodoo. And Auburn really outplayed Alabama
Yeah,
most of
for
the
most of the
game.
game. Yeah,
Once they figured out that, like, oh, we can run the ball successfully, their offense moved pretty well. Defense made enough plays to force Alabama to kick some field goals as opposed to scoring touchdowns.
yeah,
Um, and then it took Alabama. They got the muff punt, and then things were looking up. They got a big 4th down conversion on a gutsy call to call that toss sweep
yeah,
out of that kind of that tush push formation. Which
right.
I tell you what, that my heart jumped in my throat when I saw that they were going to toss the ball.
Oh
Um,
boy, yeah,
Gutsy
yeah,
call.
that
Um,
was.
but and then just shambles. 1st and goal run, got about a yard or two, nothing big, and then
Right.
2nd and goal,
This
another
that
bad snap.
snap,
Yeah.
and it
Uh
hadn't been. It's been a couple of games since we've seen a bad snapper. It's head, and boy, there was a terrible time for that. I was like, oh my god.
huh. And there's a couple bad ones earlier in the game too. They weren't.
Right. That didn't.
Jalen caught them both, but
Right.
and then that one goes, and then 3rd down, Jalen uh,
Yeah.
goes
Should have just
ahead
run the
of.
ball.
Yeah, he should have just run the ball. He got too into. He was trying to make the big play. He had all the time in the world to run to find someone. No one could get open. Then he takes a step backwards. He goes across the line, goes backwards,
Hmm.
throws it. So that's a penalty and a loss of down. We end up with 4th and goal on the 31-yard line.
Yeah,
No
that's the
hope.
wildest.
I'm getting angry. This would be the biggest Iron Bowl win since the kick six, which they talked about
Yeah,
endlessly, of course.
endlessly. My goodness.
Yeah.
Like Gary, he can't go Alabama game. Not even Iron Bowl, but I swear, if Gary's on the call, like that gets brought up at some point, no matter what.
Well, we only got one more left. So,
All right. Yeah, one more
but
game with Gary, but
yeah, it only looked it looked like the playoff hopes were done, that we'd be only playing to be a spoiler for Georgia's season next week,
yeah,
that
yeah,
Auburn was going to get bragging rights in a really
right,
annoying way. I mean, a team that just got housed by New Mexico State.
right.
And then they rush two. Jalen has all the time, launches one to the back corner of the end zone, and lo and behold, Isaiah Bond is there, got separation from
Boy,
his guy, makes a leap and grab, gets his foot in bounds, and
my goodness.
yeah.
It was just beautiful play. I mean, beautiful throw, great placement. I mean, and then Bond, it was him or nobody.
Hmm.
So I mean, it was perfect, well done. It was just amazing. It was crazy to think too, it was on the 10-year anniversary of the kick six, and now poof. I mean, that's just, if not as amazing as crazy that ending was, because I mean, literally no hope there. 4th and 31. I mean,
Hmm.
and not even a chance to get a first down or anything. It's touchdown or nothing. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just ridiculousness. But it was, we had said, we've experienced craziness of Jordan-Hare. Maybe it made it even worse that they did get blown out last week. Maybe we didn't come in as prepared as maybe we should have. Who
Hmm.
knows? But at the end of the day, those type of rivalry games, you know what to expect. We we got everything. you can expect from a trip to Jordan-Hare.
Hmm.
And hey, this time for the second time in a row down there, we came through with some miracles on our side. It hasn't been pretty for us often down there, but hey, the last two have worked out in our favor in the end.
Yeah. And it's crazy. And you hope it follows the same script as 2 years ago, where that leads to a
Mm-hmm.
pretty easy, or not
Nice,
easy, but a big win in the SEC title
big
game.
win.
Um,
Exactly.
which I guess we'll talk about a little later. But yeah, just insane Iron Bowl.
Man,
It had a little bit of everything. It had a horrible ref crew, the worst crew in the
oh
SEC
my goodness!
from
Like
the
just
opening kickoff. Yeah.
yeah, just from the get go. I mean, even on their side, I mean, with that first face mask was like, whoa,
Mm.
what's going on here? And then
Yeah.
yeah, from there, I mean, they overcompensated for Auburn like hundreds of times. It's like wow, I'm like that.
Yeah, it was terrible both ways, but yeah, they had the face mask, a blatant face mask on the opening kickoff by Alabama, and they called a block in the back on Auburn, which it was. But I don't know how you
Yeah,
miss that face mask. You don't make them
right.
re-kick, and
Yeah,
then the makeup calls come, like you said, in mass, including on a great touchdown play by Alabama, and they get a hold. It was pretty ticky
questionable.
tack. Yeah, even
And
Gary
then
Danielson called it out
yeah,
as questionable.
right. And then yeah, you have that. And then of course we got hit with the blindside block off the
Ugh.
touchdown play. But then our punter got absolutely blasted, and the refs just looking at it like, oh,
Yeah, like
wasn't
damn that.
anywhere near the play at all. He wasn't even running up the field. He was just
Mm-mm.
standing there.
Yeah, looking down, should have been a blindside there. Then you had the really weird thing late in the fourth quarter where Alabama jumped, but Auburn had three guys in motion, and they called it
Yeah,
offsides. But
yeah,
was it
you
an
got
illegal shift? It is.
just wild. And then of course the great catch by Burton on the sideline. Clearly there
Oh,
was some green,
mm-hmm.
and it's just like wow, like what are we looking at?
Yeah, it's
And then on top of that, I mean, all the calls going that way, and then missed field goal. I was like, my goodness.
yeah, it's oh yeah. Will Reichard
I
missing
was,
field goals. It just had everything was
I
set up
was,
to be another crazy Auburn victory in the
yeah.
Iron Bowl, and
And then we'd hear 365 days, oh, Auburn did this amazing thing, and
yeah.
hundreds of videos. But
Mm.
yeah,
But yeah, like we said,
hey,
Jalen Milrow would not have it.
no,
It took a couple good fortunate breaks, but we got it done. We're
hmm,
still in the playoff hunt.
yeah,
And then lucky for us, we weren't the only team to struggle yesterday against a rival
yeah,
that
we weren't
should have
exactly.
been outmatched.
Yeah,
So I guess we'll go on to that. The rest of the games, of course, the big one yesterday was Ohio State at Michigan. A pretty good back and forth affair for a while. Michigan pulled
yeah,
away toward the end. And as we kind of said all year long in our previews and just talking about it, Michigan is just designed to beat Ohio State. Um,
yeah,
and a good game called by interim, or I guess substitute coach Sharon Moore um,
hmm,
on the Wolverine sideline. He was aggressive, went for the kill in a lot of spots, and it paid off. The
yeah, it
Wolverines
did.
win the Big Ten East. They'll go to the Big Ten title game against Iowa. They yeah, who oof. They played a very Iowa game against Nebraska.
Yeah, they
Um,
did
and yeah, barring a miracle upset, Michigan should be in
in
the
the playoff.
playoff, maybe even as a one seed.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it
Uh,
was a crazy game. But Ohio State had that opportunity at the end there. A bad
mhm,
quarterback play from McCord, definitely. uh, he just hasn't gotten better throughout the season in a lot of
mm-mm,
spots. Uh, he's okay. I mean, but with all those offensive talent, I mean that offense never evolved into what it should have this entire season. With arguably the best, well, people are saying is the best wide receiver in quite some time. With Marvin Harrison Jr.
Hmm.
Yeah, that, yeah, that. Ultimate.
Uh, yeah, but yeah, like you said, he had that great game against Notre Dame, that final drive at least, where he looked like
Mm-hmm.
maybe that would have been his launching point. But like you said, it
Yeah,
just never really took off. And
right.
when you come, after the likes of C.J. Stroud and some of these guys that Ohio State have had in the past few years,
Yeah,
that's where
he
the
had a
focus
tough.
is going to be. It's on you.
Right.
Yeah.
He came into a tough situation. But the thing is, he really never evolved. So
Hmm.
obviously, you would have to think next year they're definitely going to have a different quarterback under center unless he gets way better over the off season. But even then, as we know, Ohio State's still very much around. Depending on how
Hmm.
Championship Saturday goes. As we saw last year, they backed their way into the playoffs. So they're right there. People
Hmm.
are going to respect the loss. I doubt that they're going to drop very far. They were on the road and lost by less than a touchdown, so people are going to look at it as a quality loss, if for what that's worth. So they're still in the hunt for just depending on what happens.
Yeah, they didn't drop far at all in the AP poll, so we'll see if that's a sign of what's to come with the playoff ranking on
Right.
Tuesday. Um, but yeah, Michigan now they get Jim Harbaugh back for the title game. Like we said, they should beat Iowa easily,
Yeah.
and they should make their third straight trip to the playoff. Um,
Exactly. Looking for the first win.
yeah, um, they hope they don't have to run into Georgia yet again. I guess,
Yeah, for sure.
or TCU. uh, um, yeah, elsewhere going out west, Washington survived a
Oh,
really
yeah.
tough Apple Cup. Definitely closer than I thought it would have been.
Yeah.
D- did not have a late Washington win on my books. I thought they would have, with the way Washington State just fell off the map this year.
Yeah. And especially
I
in
thought,
Seattle too.
yeah, I thought the Huskies would very easily uh, take that, but no, Cougars gave them everything they wanted and more.
Hmm.
Uh, Michael Penix and company were able to survive though in the end, and
Yeah, they
they
got
move
that
on
big.
to a rematch.
Yeah,
Yeah, whew.
yeah, the big fourth down play there, and then able to get the
No,
field goal. But that, oof,
huge call
gutsy
too.
call, gutsy
Yeah,
call.
another gutsy call. Yeah.
And
Um,
hey, they're sitting undefeated, 12-0 since the last time they split that national title with Georgia Tech. So you don't know if that signs of things to come. Who knows? But yeah, the big rematch with Oregon. So if of course, if they win that, they're definitely in the playoff. And of course, as we know, if Oregon wins, who knows what happens at that point?
yeah. It's crazy. Oregon is actually opened as a 9-point favorite, which
This is wild.
insane to me. I do think that they've clearly kind of been the better team since that game.
But nine
And
points
if
worth?
yeah,
Wow.
that I don't know. Yeah.
If it were in
It's
Eugene, maybe, but
mhm.
it's not. It's a neutral site game in
Yeah,
Las
and played it.
Vegas. Like
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they won, but 9 points, that seems like a lot.
that seems like a lot. Yeah,
But yeah, so Washington and Oregon, of course, that meant they won Civil War on Friday, pretty easily.
dominating fashion. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Now that of course, the Oregon State coach has been named the Michigan State coach, it's like they kind of look a little different. Not that Oregon wouldn't have
Hmm.
won, but it was like I don't know. Oregon State just didn't have the fight that you would usually expect from that game,
Hmm.
especially with it being the last one. I don't know. It just seemed like there's something missing, but it makes a little more sense now that we know that their coach is on the Michigan State.
Hmm. Yeah, kind of resembled. our freshman year at Alabama when we lost the Iron Bowl to an Auburn team that really down to their third string running back. Alabama
Hmm.
was a much better team at home in Tuscaloosa and just looked flat. And Auburn really kind of dominated that game. And
Exactly.
lo and behold, we find out not too long after that, Dennis Franchione's on the Texas A&M. So
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely had a
yeah,
resemblance for sure.
yeah. But what can you do there? See elsewhere, Florida State. They were playing down in the swamp, a tough game without their guy Jordan Travis,
Yeah.
and they had to work hard for it. Had to come
They
back.
did. They did. But Florida definitely helped them out with some dumb penalties, man.
Uh,
But that's just been Florida for a while now. Just some,
it
we know it's a
has.
rivalry game and it's a lot of hatred, but you got to be cool at certain points. Like they had the
Well,
sack on third down and they slid and they just slaughtered them, the quarterback on that third down
ooh,
run. And
yeah, and I'm so happy for that kid that he's all right because
yeah,
it looked like he was surprised he wasn't knocked out on site.
yeah,
No, and it was yeah. You mentioned just stupid penalties, and it wasn't like they played bad and those were the icing on the
no,
cake. Florida played a really good game. They played
yeah.
really well
Their
on both sides of the
defense was
ball.
phenomenal.
Yeah, defense is great, and Florida State had to fight hard, but they did, and they move
Yeah.
on to the ACC title game and against the Louisville team who lost their
Oh,
rivalry game at home to Kentucky.
yeah. Crazy.
Could not
And
stop Ray Davis and company.
yeah,
Um,
that's one I did not see. That's another one I did not see coming at all, considering how Kentucky came into that game. Just with what Louisville's done to that point, and the fact that though it was very unlikely, I mean, technically they were in all it was a long shot. They still had some opportunity to make the playoff. If they had
mhm.
won and then won next week.
But yeah, that Kentucky's first win over a top 10 team on the road since 1977, I believe.
Phew, yeah. What's
Um,
that five?
so,
Isn't that five straight for them in the rivalry game or something like that?
ooh, it might be. Let's see. But a disappointing loss for the Cardinal. Like you said, they
Yeah,
had a just a very small shot um, at making the playoff if they'd won next week and had a bunch of other stuff
but it was
bounce
still,
right for them.
there. Now it's completely dead, and
Yeah.
then that makes it even crazier for Florida State because if they were to slip up, they're definitely done. Because I mean, people are trying to get rid of them because of the quarterback situation, and if you lose to a team that just lost to a barely above 500 Kentucky team, well,
Mhm. Yeah. Disappointing. Good into a disappointing season for the
yeah,
Wildcats.
right.
They of course they'll play in a bowl game of some sort, but yeah, this like you said, this is indeed their fifth straight win over the Cardinals, which puts them at they are now five ahead in the all-time series.
Hmm.
Um, one of those weird series. They've actually only played 35 games.
Oh,
Um,
that is
they
weird.
yeah they started in 1912, played a few games, then played one in 1924, and then did not play again for 70 years until 1994.
Wow.
And then, for the most part, I do believe they have played just about every year since then.
Hmm.
Um,
That is weird though that it's been so limited. Considering
yeah,
how much they play in just a basketball rivalry. But
yeah. hmm Um, but yeah, so good like we say, good win for the Wildcats. A disappointing win if you're a Louisville fan, but still a much better year than anyone
yeah, I mean, would have
anticipated.
been. I mean, you're 10 and
Yeah.
10-2, and what they were just horrible last year.
hmm
They were just bad. So yeah, kudos to what Braum is doing there, and I would think that they're going to be pretty decent team over the next like five or so years. And yeah, But then talk about that game itself. It looks like originally there was those reports yesterday about Mark Stoops being the A&M guy, but now that those kind of fallen off.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, weird kind of late night rumors that Stoops was going to be the A&M guy, and then
yeah,
kind of a backlash online from A&M fans, which is ridiculous to me because that would be a great hire for them. Um, and of course, now there looks like Mike Elko is going to be the guy, which we'll talk a little bit more about that in a
yeah,
minute. Um, but yeah, just a good win for Kentucky, and then
yeah.
moving on, Georgia surprisingly
Ooh,
had to fight harder than I
they
thought they would
did.
against Georgia
Right.
Tech team. Only an 8 point win. Of course, Georgia Tech made it closer, with a 10 point
At the
fourth
end.
quarter.
Right. But
But
it was similar to a lot of Georgia games. The other team gets out to a start, and then Georgia
mhm,
fights back. But even with that start, I was like, yeah, it's nice, but yeah, this isn't happening. Like, I don't know, I
no,
just knew it wasn't gonna happen. But good fight for the Georgia Tech. They appear to be going in the right direction. They've been a bit. They had a abysmal run there after the switch from the triple option. They really fell off. Can't even think what the
mhm.
last guy's name was, but he ran them into the ground.
Oh,
And
Jeff Collins.
yeah, Jeff Collins, that was just a horrible
Yeah.
run, but they appear to be going the right direction, going to bowl games. So much
Hmm.
improved, and a team that a lot of people had to found out the hard way about Georgia Tech. Miami, of course, found out about them. I
Hmm.
think when North Carolina lost to them, I mean they pulled off
Hmm.
some big wins in the season. There weren't many expectations. So,
No, yeah. So yeah, you're good fight for Georgia Tech. They played a much
mhm,
better game than they should have on paper.
yeah,
Of course,
and
there are
that
no more victories in rivalry week, but you got to feel proud, like you said, of where Brent
or
Key has that program going
exactly.
in the
And
future.
the worst thing for them though is just because of who they are compared to Georgia. I mean, when that game's in Atlanta, I mean, it's still a home game for Georgia. It's like
Hmm.
it's like no, no, no help for them. It was like an 80-20 stadium yesterday. So much red in there. It's like,
Hmm.
geez.
Yeah. Tough going for the
Yeah.
rambling wreck. Uh, but let's see what else happened. Of course, we talked about Civil War. One fun game from last night didn't have really playoff implications, but one of my favorite rivalry names, Farmageddon, Iowa State and Kansas State.
That was a good one.
Psych, it was a good one in the snow. Not quite blizzard like conditions, but a good hard kind of Midwest snow there in
Hmm.
Manhattan, Kansas, and the Cyclones went in there and stole one. Um, a good season for them too. After a disappointing start, they really come on.
Yeah, they did. They
Um,
definitely did.
yeah, Arizona beat the ever loving hell out of Arizona State. Um, Notre
And
Dame
that's
beat
a
St- Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, that Arizona, it's interesting because we had talked about it last week. We were like, well, technically Oregon wasn't in the championship game yet, and they really weren't because if they had somehow lost to Oregon State, Arizona could have went to the Pac-12 title game,
Hmm.
which was
So yeah,
crazy going into that
uh,
game,
but yeah,
going into the weekend.
Arizona quarterback Fafita, 527 yards passing,
Yeah,
five touchdowns.
amazing.
That rivalry has turned around and quickly because it was not
Yeah,
just a couple years ago. The Arizona State, I think, won something like 70-7 or something.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
that's what got Sumlin fired
yeah.
when he was Arizona
Uh,
coach.
so yeah, crazy. In the last game ever on the Pac-12 network, Notre Dame beat Stanford 56-23.
uh,
There's a good trivia question for you going forward.
yep.
And a really good one later, sneaky good one. Oklahoma State needing a win to get to the
Yeah.
Big 12 title game, got down 24-6 to BYU at halftime, and then
Yeah.
stormed back, forced
Storm
overtime,
back.
and
One in
won
double
on
overtime.
got a fumble recovery and double overtime to
He
seal the
snapped.
game.
Yeah, he just snatched the ball. He said, "Give me that."
Oh,
Like
just
that,
a yeah, a grown man play, just like guy.
man.
BYU guy caught the ball for about what like a 6 yard gain or something, and
Yeah,
Oklahoma State, as he was fighting for extra yards, that Oklahoma State guy, like you said, just snatched
snatched
it,
it.
just
I was like,
out
wow.
muscled him, took it from him. So they will face Texas next weekend. Tennessee beat the hell out of Vanderbilt, doubled them up.
Yeah,
Um, NC State gets another win over North Carolina.
beat him pretty
I believe that
solid.
I believe that's their third straight. I don't think Mac has beaten them yet in his return to
He
Chapel Hill.
hasn't. He hasn't.
And speaking of a team that started out disappointing, they've now won I think their last 5 or so games. 9-3, chance to get to 10 wins in the bowl game.
For
So good
sure.
year for the Wolfpack out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Clemson, a struggle win over South Carolina. South Carolina just couldn't do anything on
Anything
offense.
with the
Neither
ball. Yeah.
neither team really could.
No, they had one
Um,
offensive touchdown.
yeah,
I don't know Clemson did, but yeah, neither team looked good at all. They're just
yeah. Clemson didn't even score an offense touchdown. They had the scoop and score,
they
and that was their
did,
only
yeah.
touchdown of the game. Yeah.
Yikes.
Um,
And
so
South
Clemson
Carolina is
will.
definitely a team that I don't know, they have high expectations going to the season there.
Mhm.
A lot of, I guess, injuries to start off with against the line, and I don't know, they just never turned into what I thought they were going to be kind of a sneaky good team out the East, but never really evolved into that.
Yeah, that offense never reached the heights of
No,
those last two games from last year
no,
where they beat
that was
they
just
beat Tennessee and then
yeah,
Clemson.
that was just
Uh,
a wild run.
and yeah, and a weird thing, all five of South Carolina's wins this year came at home. They were 5-2 in Columbia, and so 0-5 on the road.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and then see other top 25 action. Liberty finished an unbeaten regular season. They beat UTEP. Um, LSU, a good win, a big fourth quarter to
yeah. They had a
beat
huge
Texas
fourth quarter
A&M.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, Jaden Daniels just another great game. And also Texas A&M may have found their quarterback going forward.
yeah.
They love their
He had a
their
heck of a
left-handed
day.
guys. Yeah, yeah, almost
For
300
the
yards, couple touchdowns. Yeah.
and coming into the game, he didn't even know he was starting until the game started. So kudos to
Hmm.
him.
Yeah. Tulane finishes an unbeaten conference regular season. They beat
Hmm.
UTSA. We mentioned Iowa's win and Nebraska, Oklahoma big win over
Yeah,
TCU. Put up
a lot of
69
points.
points.
There's a lot
Yeah,
of points scored in that
69 to
game.
45. Just
I was
a
like,
crazy
wow.
day.
Yeah,
Dylan Gabriel, 400-yard day through the air.
yeah.
Penn State shut out Michigan State 42 nothing.
Hmm.
Missouri big win over Arkansas.
Yeah, that was ugly.
Uh, it gives them a 10-win regular season.
That's impressive considering the drink was on the hot seat coming
Mhm.
into the year.
Yeah. Um, Texas big win. They left no doubt over Texas Tech.
Not at all. Texas Tech was dead from the get go. The
Hmm.
game was over within
And then
couple minutes. So,
and then a kind of a lower scoring Egg Bowl Thursday night than I would have expected, but Ole Miss got it done. Another 10-win regular season for them. Lane Kiffin doing a great job there.
he is.
Just he's got to get over that Alabama hump.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see where Will goes going into the portal off Mississippi
Yeah,
State. Be interested to see. I'm sure a lot of teams would be thrilled to get him. So
yeah,
it'll be
that
a
he's
hot
going to be a hot.
commodity,
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be the probably premier guy in the transfer portal.
and that all opens
Um,
up on the fourth. So that'll be
mhm.
crazy.
So we'll be seeing that. But yeah, so that was, I think, pretty much any game from this weekend of importance. That's all of them. Trying to look here for any other results. Maybe I missed that we
I
won't
think
touch
we
on, but
think we got everything, but I mean,
yeah.
it's been a wild season. Crazy to think we're to the final week before bowl season. We're almost to the end, sadly.
Hmm.
And we'll just see what craziness. Because I mean, it's been some craziness almost every week. The season is definitely not disappointed in drama. So it'll be interesting to see what championship
Uh,
Saturday or championship weekend brings us. Because then,
Absolutely, and it's another like we talked about all year that it's like not quite chaos, but just a lot of scares because like we
right,
said, we had the only top 10 losses yesterday were Ohio State, but losing to Michigan and then Louisville.
yeah,
But like we said, of course, Alabama had to win it in the last minute. Florida State
right,
had to win it in the last quarter.
right.
Georgia had to
Georgia had to
hold
hold
on.
on. Yeah,
Uh huh.
nothing was
Um,
easy.
no, Washington, a closer game than
Yeah,
they wanted. And that's rivalry week. I think on the betting column on Friday, I think I said rivalry week is akin to an acid or a panic attack on acid,
yeah, for
where
sure.
at the end, yeah, where at the end you either go to emotional prison or you have this weird euphoric pride. And I
Exactly.
think that was a pretty good description. If I must toot my own
Yeah.
horn there, but
All right, definitely was.
of course, what this time of year brings the coaching carousel, and we did have some movement yesterday. You mentioned it looks like Mike Elko is going to Texas A&M, according to reports. It's a good hire for them.
Yeah,
Sucks for Duke to lose them, but hopefully they can get someone in there to keep that momentum going for their
right.
program.
The only thing with
Um,
that is, what does that do with like Riley Leonard? Is he gonna be on
yeah,
the move? And is
mhm,
people gonna jump on their talented people? Are they gonna be able to get someone in there that wants that the players are excited to stay around for? Because at NIL,
mhm.
boy, people are gonna be and the transfer port, people are gonna be going into places like that have coaching change. Be like, hey, you want to win, right? Come on. So,
Yeah. Um, Look, Dana Holgerson is out at Houston.
hmm
Um,
that might be a if you get the right person there. When we've seen the times, we saw it. We Kevin Sumlin had a run at Houston. Tom Herman had an excellent run at Houston. You
mhm.
get the right guy in there. Now that they're a Power Five team, watch out. Houston might be a team that could definitely do some things,
Yeah,
especially
that
the
is
12
a
team playoff.
yeah, exactly that. They're in the Big 12 now. They are in a great football state. And that's one of the knocks on Holgerson is that he did not recruit as well as he should have there, in a hotbed of football talent.
Yeah,
And then granted, you're always going to lose those big Houston guys to Texas or A and
and
M or
A&M, yeah,
someone like an Alabama coming in from out of state. But
right,
you've got to keep one or two of them a year. You've
yeah,
got to steal like a big time quarterback, and Holgerson just never was able to do that there. But like you
exactly,
said, that's a program that has all the makings of being able to make some noise once the playoffs expand to 12. Um,
exactly,
with no more Texas or Oklahoma in the Big 12.
right,
Um,
for sure. So yeah, if they
so
get the
that
right guy, so that'd be interesting where they go with that hire.
yeah, I think that's a very interesting hire to look out for. Indiana fired Tom Allen. Like we said, Jonathan Smith is leaving Oregon State for Michigan State. So that'll be interesting to see what
And he
happens there at Oregon State.
still doesn't escape Oregon.
No, yep, he has to go right back to them. Syracuse let go of Dino Babers after 8 years. Um, and I think, let's see, elsewhere, some small ones. UTEP fired their coach, Dana Dimel. New Mexico fired their coach, Danny Gonzalez. Brady Hoke is going to retire, so San Diego State will be looking for a new coach out there.
hmm
Speaking of a team that had a disappointing season there, um, I
And
think
that,
Northwestern officially made their interim coach a full time head coach.
hey, he did a hell of a job. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
situation
Yeah.
he came into and the fact that they ended 7-5, beat the rival, the Illinois to close out the season, but got some decent wins. I mean, able to beat Minnesota, able to beat Maryland. Like they they overachieved like no other. So, it's good that they stuck with the guy that got him there and didn't look, for something outside
Hmm.
because he deserves it.
Yeah. So probably expect a lot of movement this year or this week. I mean,
Yeah.
on the
And,
coaching.
and
Uh,
talking about hot seats, I know he's not going to get fired, but you would have to think, especially if Ohio State doesn't make the playoff this year, because that's what kind of helped him out a lot last year. When
mhm,
Ryan Day is not a very popular guy in Columbus right now. Three straight losses to Michigan. And I know it's tough because that's your only loss every year, but
mhm,
it's one of those things, especially with how the best thing for everybody in that East is that moving to 12 and the Big 12, Big 10 getting rid of divisions is probably the best thing. But
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. You talk to some more level-headed Ohio State fans, and I think they're all in agreement. That's ridiculous. He does a great job. He just uh, hasn't been able to beat Michigan the past few
right,
years, and I think one of the best takes I saw was someone pointing out that Urban Meyer and for all this his success with there, like he was beating shitty Michigan teams.
there he was.
So now Michigan is up, and that's the nature of rivalries.
Yeah, up and
There's going to
down.
be a little up and down, back and forth. But so now let's look ahead to next week. All of our conference title games are set up. We'll start Friday. We'll just go in scheduled order. Friday, the Conference USA title game, New Mexico State and Liberty face off.
That should be a
Uh,
fun one.
it is Liberty's the home team there. The smaller schools, playing at home. It should be a fun one. Yeah, New Mexico State, a really good uh, program. Of course, we
They
talked about
beat
the Auburn
Auburn.
victory.
They got a good
Uh,
win yesterday as well, beating Jacksonville State. I
yeah,
mean, that was a good win.
it is, and of course, we mentioned Liberty finished their season 12-0. I expect Jamie Chadwell, head coach there, his first season there, but of course he had success at Coastal
Right.
Carolina.
So,
I expect
his
him to be a hot
hot
name.
commodity. Yeah, he's gonna get a lot of
Yeah,
calls, whether he
hmm
leaves or not. Who
yeah.
knows?
I saw his name in Mississippi State talks, and I think that'd be a great hire for
That'd be
them. But with
interesting. Yeah.
all these other jobs opening up, and you interested to see where he goes.
Oh, I just saw some breaking news.
Uh-oh,
Jeff. Oh, wow.
what you got?
Jeff Levy just announced on ESPN is going to Mississippi State, the OC from Oklahoma.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I didn't even know that was the thing. Like,
Yeah.
wow. Well, I
Well,
guess
there
I'll
you
change.
go.
There we go.
Uh,
Wow.
well, there you go. That is now Jeff. Let's see. Yeah.
Hmm. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I
Well,
mean,
that's
you
interesting.
definitely.
Okay.
I wonder if that would make Will Rogers want to stay at all, or is he for sure out now? Because that's a great offensive mind coming in there. I mean, what he's
Mm-hmm.
done I mean, the numbers he put up this year at OU, and he had that offense rolling. So,
Well, there you go. There. It looks like
wow.
our.
Yeah.
Here's another one I saw. Terry Bowden is out at UL Monroe.
See,
Um,
he's getting pretty old, isn't he?
yeah, I mean, who knows? He's up there with just 3 seasons there. That's a tough place to
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. It is not in the exciting part of Louisiana. I will say that
No,
much.
at all. At all.
um, and Baylor did officially announce that Dave Aranda will return next year. So,
Yeah.
and any
Mm,
speculation on that.
I'm sure he was probably has to make a lot of different moves.
Hmm.
Probably has to bring in a whole new staff, and those things usually don't end well. Those last year, well, you have to do this, this, and this in order to keep your job. I'm sure it's something like that, but
Hmm.
that hasn't worked out for a lot of people when
Yeah.
they're in those situations. So,
Oh. Okay, well, back to our championship week preview. Of
Sorry.
course, Friday night is also no. You're good. Breaking news here. Of course, by the time you listen to this, folks, on Monday, it won't
It
be as
won't be
breaking.
breaking
But
news. Yeah.
hey, Oregon and Washington, of course, playing the Pac-12 title game as we mentioned in Las Vegas. That is Friday night. Greg, if you had to pick a winner, who do you got?
I've been high on Washington all year, but I would have to think just with where they've been the last since they played each other. There's just that revenge factor. It's hard to beat a good team twice in a year. I'd have to think that
Mm-hmm.
Oregon gets some revenge.
I think I agree with you. I think Oregon's been playing so well since then, and on a neutral field that
And they even played well that day. It wasn't like they
yeah,
had a bad day.
yeah, they just missed a late field goal that would have sent it to overtime.
You
So
know, a
could
couple of
be a moot
calls
point.
go. A couple of fourth down calls they convert.
Hmm.
Who knows?
Yeah. Saturday starts with a couple games. The Big 12 title game at 11, Oklahoma State and Texas. Um, I mean, better season for the Cowboys than anybody I think thought was going to happen,
Oh
but
yeah,
I think Texas should probably take care of them pretty easily.
you would think so. Of course, from our side, we'd love to see that happen, but
Yeah.
realistically, yeah, that's probably not going to
Yeah.
happen.
Mm-mm. In Detroit, the MAC championship game, Miami, Ohio, and Toledo square off. Um, 2 o'clock, the Mountain West title game, Boise State and UNLV. Um, Great year for the running Rebels, man.
Yeah, I mean they.
Barry Odom in his first year didn't come through with the cover. Lost to San Jose State yesterday. Um, got that one wrong in the picks column, but the tiebreakers they used some computer formula similar to the BCS, and it picked Boise State and UNLV. Um, San Jose State's win was not enough yesterday. Um, Interesting, Boise State moving on from their coach despite
They
making
did.
the title game, but
They,
so we'll see what happens there. Of course, 3 o'clock, the big one, Georgia and Alabama SEC title game. Let's talk about that for a second. I was saying the one thing, it's always hard to judge rivalry games because the
it's a
underdog is
rivalry
hyped
game.
up, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's a rivalry game. Weird things happen. We've talked about Jordan-Hare voodoo forever. If there was one thing to worry me about yesterday is once Auburn got running that power run game, and
we couldn't stop
eh,
it.
yeah, and that's worrisome going up against a Georgia team who loves to do that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. Um, at the same time, though, and Georgia Tech exposed it for Georgia, and a lot of teams have this year. You can run on the dogs if you can get outside the
Yeah,
tackles. Their edge game is
it's
not as strong
open.
as it has been. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so it's interesting to see how these, Tommy Rees and then Mike Bobo are going to attack the other defenses.
because they have all the. I mean, both ways. I mean, they definitely. I know that they'll see all the holes both ways. It's a matter
Hmm.
of can you take advantage of that. And to be honest, Alabama, for the most part, it was kind of shocking how bad we did against the run yesterday. Because
Yeah.
we've had our struggle with running quarterbacks. We saw that, of course, Jaden Daniels had a field day, but I mean, but actual running backs haven't really gone off on us. So I was kind of shocked just how well they ran the ball, and it wasn't
Yeah.
anything tricky or anything. They just ran the ball.
Yeah. That's the
So
one thing that I did not see yesterday that I expect to see more of was, Hugh Freeze pulling everything out of his bag of tricks, and they really didn't. I mean,
no, they just
they,
played
they
straight
had
up.
the one touchdown that was on that kind of end around play, but
Hmm. For the most part, they
um,
just played hard
mhm.
nosed physical football, and that
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
that
that
almost
first
worked.
touchdown drive of theirs was the same inside zone run just 5 times in a row, and
Yeah.
what's his face Hunter was able to just either find the hole or bounce it
Hmm.
outside and do that. So
Yeah.
another interesting thing, obviously, I think Alabama will be by far the best team that Georgia has played all year, and vice
Yeah.
versa.
Right.
Alabama may have had a tougher, a little bit tougher test having to play LSU and um, Texas. It, it'll be an interesting game. It's a
Yeah.
hard. I don't
So
think it'll be a blowout either way.
no,
Um,
never is. It usually ends well. Of course,
yeah,
except for the SEC championship game. But
yeah, and
last
even
time I
even
think
that one was. Mhm.
no, but I was saying Georgia kind of knew they were in the playoff no matter what. So I don't think that they
Yeah.
felt as. But this year is going to be a little different because just with how even the playing field is in the top 10, like that they're going to come in with a different moment, different hype, I think, than what we saw 2 years ago because they know, losing on Saturday may get you eliminated from the playoff completely, even as a number
Hmm.
one team, just with where everybody else is and depending on how everything else goes. I mean,
Hmm.
we could be very much looking at a lot of one-loss teams come the end of Saturday. So,
Yeah. Um,
but on
yeah.
ours,
So.
on our side, I just say, hey, we're not expected to win. We're the underdog. We're playing with house money a little bit. Of course, it's Alabama, so the expectations are still there. But I think it's much different than any other SEC championship game, probably since that '08 Florida game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we're not expected to win. Uh, of course, outside of our program, no, everybody's thinking Georgia is going to run through us.
Hmm.
So I mean, a lot of similarities to 2 years ago, but also a lot different. But I think they'll be ready. I think they just need to come out, play, just play with no thought, just go play football. I mean,
Hmm. If they can play like they did against LSU
yeah,
in
in the second
Kentucky,
half.
just yeah, that complete games,
Hmm.
um, and let Jalen Milrow let him. He needs to make some big plays with his feet and his arm.
Yeah,
Uh, Defense needs to create turnovers, or at least get stops. Let that offense get going. Should be a good one though.
yeah,
Georgia has opened as a 4.5 point favorite. It looks like so. That's one thing to note. And then real quick, the rest of that day, Tulane host SMU for the
yeah. Should be a fun one
AAC.
too.
Yeah, that'll be SMU is playing really well, really
Yeah,
quietly.
yeah. Still not
And
ranked team, and I know some of it has to do with that now a horrible looking loss to TCU to start the year, but they're 10 and
hmm
2. Like they've had a heck of a season. I mean, their only other loss was OU. So,
hmm
yeah, but I think it's
yeah,
gonna
and
be a fun game.
they smacked around Navy, put up
Yeah,
52 points in the first half the other day. Um,
they're a high-powered offense,
yeah, that's a big one because Tulane playing, maybe even SMU playing for that New Year Six bid.
right?
Of course, Liberty's in that conversation as well. You would
Mm-hmm.
think. Um, Also at 3 o'clock, the Sun Belt title game, App State at Troy. Um, at what used to be called Movie Gallery Stadium there in Troy,
Yeah, yeah,
Alabama.
with
Um, that should be good. It could be a fun one
should
there.
be a fun one.
Just no one will be watching because of the big one on
Oh,
CBS there.
yeah,
And then the nighttime games, you got your Big Ten championship, Michigan and Iowa, and then your ACC title game, Louisville and Florida State, of course. Like we said, you
I
would
think
think
that.
Mich. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying I think that Florida State Louisville game is going to be a pretty good one. Florida State may
Hmm.
very well win the game, but I think I don't know if Louisville maybe is looking a little bit ahead, but I think they're going to definitely come in ready. Um, and I mean, and Florida State they've won a lot of games. You can't take away from them. But even with Jordan Travis, at no point have I thought, man, this team is just epic. They've had quite a few games where they could have lost. The Miami game was a lot closer when folks thought. You know, uh, Yesterday against Florida. So, I mean, I think Florida State wins, but it would not shock me if Louisville were to pull that upset, just because they're a good team.
Hmm. Yeah, well coached team, and they'll be angry after yesterday.
Yeah,
Um, But yeah, I think that should do it for college football for this week.
Hmm.
Unless there's anything we missed that you want to touch on.
I'm just, I just if championship Saturday is continuation of what rivalry weekend was, it might be a heck of a. I think we'll be in for entertaining Saturday and hopefully a lot of tough decisions for the committee on Sunday.
Yeah. Of course, we talk. Yeah, I think I guess if you're an Alabama fan, obviously, you want the win over Georgia. That's the only way you
Right,
get in. But
right.
you would like Texas to lose, and then um, I guess I don't. It's real interesting between Washington and Oregon because
Yeah,
the
because I don't
scenario
know
everyone
what that
talks about.
does.
Yeah, the scenario everyone talks about is like, so Michigan beats Iowa, Washington wins, and then there's a couple. So Michigan wins, Washington wins, Florida State wins. So those are your three power conference unbeaten teams. They're in,
Yeah,
no doubt. And then you're left with Texas as a one-loss Big 12 champ and Alabama as a one-loss SEC champ. And the question there is, does the committee value
head to head.
Texas's win, yeah, over
Yeah.
Alabama more, or Alabama's much better resume?
Hmm.
And that's a question. And then the other scenario is if Oregon wins that. So you would have Michigan and Florida State as your locks because they're unbeaten conference
Right.
title winners.
And you have
And
a
then you
lot
would
of
have, yeah, you would have one loss Texas, one loss Oregon, and one loss Alabama. Three teams for two spots. And
and then one lost Georgia too. I mean, technically,
yeah,
I
one
mean,
loss
do you
Georgia, one
drop it?
loss Ohio State is in
Yeah,
there. Yeah, so
that's complete chaos. And at that point, who knows what the committee
mhm,
values or what they're looking at? And
mhm,
because I mean, there's a lot of different situations. I would say the craziest thing for Alabama, and it's just how deep the field is this year. Alabama is basically the first team I've seen since the playoff has started that a September loss in week
mhm.
two could very well be the only reason we keep not make the playoff if we win, even if we win on Saturday. They can keep
And
us
that's a
out, and that's wild.
That's a good point. We have not. I mean, the very first year of the playoff, I think Ohio State lost at home to a not very good Virginia Tech team that I think
Right.
finished like 6-6 that year or something.
Hmm.
And they didn't keep them out the playoff. They went on to win the national title.
Yeah. I mean, it's
We've
not like
seen
we
this.
played a bad team. It was
No,
it's a,
yeah,
a good Texas team. I mean, yeah, they
Clemson had
won.
a Clemson had a home loss to what Pitt one year and still
Yeah,
made it.
exactly.
So yeah, I think the only thing you can say for certain is the committee probably wishes that it were 12 teams this year,
Oh yeah,
because that'd be a hell of a playoff this year.
oh yeah, for sure.
Um,
But
yeah,
and and then, but the craziness though. I mean, what the playoff committee would really hope for is that it just goes chalk and Georgia wins, Washington
yeah,
wins, Florida State wins, and of course Michigan wins. And it's no
mhm,
question you get your four, and they have some
yeah,
epic New Year's Six bowl games still. But
yeah. That would be I think the first time we ever had four unbeaten conference champions in the
right.
playoff too. But yeah, like you said, it should be a great weekend. Uh, Alabama fans probably still will have to about Wednesday before we realize what is actually happening. And yes, we actually did win the Iron Bowl, and it's time for Georgia.
Yeah.
Let's see. Moving on real quick, we'll go over some other stuff here, so as we don't run too long. We're at the 54-minute mark. I see now. Um, NFL today, this weekend, nothing too crazy. Kind of a bland day on Thursday. Those Thanksgiving games. Surprising win for the Packers over the Lions in Detroit.
Yeah, that was a
Uh,
wild one.
yeah, Jordan Love probably played his best game so far. They
Yeah,
jumped on him early too, 20 points in the first quarter, and
yeah,
Lions couldn't quite come back. Then your Cowboys just beat the hell out of Washington. 49ers really easy win at
yeah,
Seattle to kind of start pulling away in the NFC West there.
yeah.
Um, And the game that I'm not sure anyone watched, the Dolphins beat the Jets on Black Friday.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody really watched that because everybody kind of knew what was going to happen.
And I completely forgot it was happening. I got an alert on my phone about some fantasy stuff going on. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a game
Yeah,
today.
I don't know. I don't like that move because I always look at Friday as a college day, as the day after Thanksgiving. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's weird being only streaming on Amazon.
Yeah, eh,
The one notable thing with that was that I think the first time I've ever seen a Hail Mary returned for a touchdown.
touchdown. Yeah, do it
Yeah.
down to the yeah.
Yeah. But
That's a very New York Jet like.
yeah, right. Yeah. Only team that could happen to. Today, some kind of actually important results for division races. Jaguars went to Houston and beat the Texans.
That's a big win.
Um, yeah, it's a big win for them for the NFC South or the AFC South. The NFC South had a big one too. The Falcons beat the Saints.
Falcons pretty handily.
Uh, yeah, yeah. It was only a 9 point victory on the scoreboard, but they is definitely a kind of a dominating effort for Atlanta
Hmm.
there. The Steelers beat the Bengals to keep their playoffs hope alive. The Bengals, I assume, they'll keep slipping and slipping without Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
Um, Titans got a win over the Panthers behind a good game from Derrick Henry. Colts got their 6-5, kind of
yeah.
like
Sneaky.
very sneakily. Yeah, you look at that record, you're like, wait, the Colts are in the playoff discussion.
Right. Exactly.
Um, the Giants beat the Patriots. Mac Jones benched again, just
What was
uh,
the score on that? Like 10-7. Oh,
10-7. Yeah,
geez.
Patriots had a
Very,
chance to tie it up at the end and missed it.
very Iowa like.
Yes, Patriots. Yeah, just oof, rough year. Kind of a big marquee game going on right now. Bills have a 10-7 lead over Philly and
And
Philly.
Philly's struggling. Like,
Yeah, and the Bills look. The Bills are driving too. They have the
yeah.
ball inside the Philly red zone with under a minute to
Hmm.
go, trying to add to that first half lead. Um, Chiefs and Raiders are kind of surprisingly tied up at 14 right now. They just got underway in the second half.
I mean, the
Josh Jacobs
Raiders have
almost
nothing to
100
lose.
yards already. Yeah,
Yeah. And
and the
quietly, the
Raiders.
Raiders the last couple of weeks have looked somewhat like an okay team.
Mm-hmm. Y- you know, um, and they're kind of another team. They have a 5-6 record. They
Yeah.
could sneak there. Let's see, the Rams are up 24-8 on the Cardinals as we record, and then
Hmm.
it's kind of surprising result. The Broncos are up 14-6 on the Browns right now, but it
Right.
looks like the Browns are have a fourth and goal at the two for
Yeah.
the maybe to tie that one up, and then of course kind of a big one night Ravens at the Chargers. I said I think I picked the Ravens in the pick column, which I hate doing. It never works out, but
But
it's
yeah, the
only one I
Chargers are a
kind of
bad
like.
team.
They're a bad team, and after Brandon Staley's rant last week,
Yeah.
it kind of
Where
seems
are
like
they
his
at? Yeah.
yeah his time might be coming to an end there in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And that's a team like I think I mentioned, but that's just they don't have any home field advantage there in LA. No one
None.
cares about them.
No. At
Biggest
all.
mistake ever leaving San Diego.
It really was.
Indeed, the Browns did just score, so they will now have a
Yeah.
chance to go for two and tie that one midway through the third quarter. Um, Elsewhere, I don't think I've seen nothing big so far yet in MLB free agency. Aaron Nola did re-sign with the um, Phillies.
Yeah.
Other than that, like we said last week, we're still just waiting for Shohei Otani. That's the
Right. That's the after that things will start moving, I think.
yeah, that's when the dominoes will fall. That one,
Right.
and then of course, if indeed Juan Soto is traded,
Right.
so we will see there. NBA in season tournament, the group stage wrapped up this week, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Then we
I'm
got the
not
semis
sure.
coming. The semis are coming up, I think, this coming up weekend, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah, let's see the group. Um, let's see. So your Pacers won a group, or the Pacers, not your Pacers, and then is there a couple more? Eastern games maybe to be played. I'm not sure. But yeah, it looks like it's interesting. Yeah, so we'll see there what happens. Trying to look up some of these scenarios here because like I said, Tuesday I think is the final day for group stage games.
Group
Actually,
stage.
okay. So, but yeah, it's just like you said, a fun little wrinkle in the season. Um,
It'd be interesting to see how that takes on. Does it stay as a thing, or do they add anything to it as far as incentive other than the
mhm,
money? Because obviously money's not going to be overly intriguing to the players who make bukus of money. So I think long term they're going to have to add something else to it to make it a little more. Um,
mhm.
Give a little more point because I mean, with it being something new, of course, it works well in soccer because it's been there forever. But with it being something new
Yeah,
in American sports, what does it bring? How popular? I mean, do the players like it? I guess it's still technically the season, so it's a game they would have anyway, just a little different how they do it. So,
yeah, yeah. Still counts for the regular season
right.
standings as well.
So,
Interesting. Um, let's see. Alabama basketball this week lost their
yeah,
first game to Ohio State, but then rebounded with a win over.
rebound. And sadly, you're not able to watch that because
Uh,
it's going on as Iron Bowl is going on. So, yeah,
yeah, right. Yeah,
yeah, admittedly did not see any of that one. I will
no.
say, watch some of the Ohio State game Friday, and the only thing it's kind of the same old story. It's still November. We still have a lot to. We're still molding the team because I mean, you gotta think these guys have not really been around each other a lot. But
Hmm.
it's the same old, no real rim protector, getting out rebounded, and defense just has to keep getting better because we I don't know. There was really no point in the game where I thought we were going to win against Ohio State. They kind of start to finish. We got close a couple of times, and they hit a big three. And we
Yeah.
go in, they hit a three. But hey, it's interesting just to see the first real Power Five opponent. But nice rebound yesterday. Big game, the SEC ACC challenge against Clemson on Tuesday.
Hmm.
Hopefully we can pull that, and then of course it gets really real in December.
Yeah, really real. But yeah, I think that should do it for my list. Anything else you want to touch on before we go?
I think I am good.
Well, all right then. What was done up real good for you this week?
Just the whole, going off last week, just after experiencing the whole Thanksgiving week, I really enjoyed it. No time off from work, time at home. Of course, the Iron Bowl topped it off. So I mean, couldn't get better than what it was. You go into a holiday week with high expectations, and it lived up to it. So that's kind of my good thing of the week. How about you?
I'm just gonna say it: Jalen Milrow to Isaiah Bond.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah, turned what would have been a very disappointing loss into
Oh
a
boy.
amazing win.
Yeah.
And it
But
coming on the 10-year anniversary of the Kick Six, I think was very
doesn't get sweeter
poetic.
than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um,
it, just the whole situation. And then, on top of that, reminiscent again of even though it's a different game, different situation, the national title game with Tua's throw. Because, I mean, he gets sacked to
mhm.
play before. We're like, what the
Yeah,
heck? And then that. So, yeah, just
and then walks off.
wild
Yeah,
ending. Yeah, wild ending there. Can't get better. Happy for Jalen because, I mean, that would
yeah,
have been. Yeah,
yeah.
and we're
Happy
on
for
to
Jalen.
Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's I guess get over it, and yeah, like you said, focus on them Bulldogs.
Yeah.
They're going to be a lot tougher. But
But
as
hey,
always,
they'll
thank
they'll
you.
be ready to go.
Oh
No, I'm
yeah.
just saying they'll be ready to go. I mean, there's no doubt
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah, there's nothing to look forward ahead to now.
Yeah,
So yeah, should be a great championship week, and we're starting to hit our stretch run in NFL football.
yeah,
Like you said, big December for Alabama basketball. Conference plays right around the corner, and we'll be in playoff and bowl season before we know it. But
yes,
as
sir.
always, folks, thank you for listening, taking on sports. Uh, Listen to all of the great podcasts on the Alabama Take family of podcast. I'm sure the Alabama Slam might have something big to talk about this week.
I would think so.
Uh,
That was I enjoyed it. I enjoyed some.
yeah, I didn't get to watch any of Survivor Series, but I did see the big surprise at the end.
Yeah, that's a big one.
CM Punk
Yeah.
back in WWE. Hell, Triple H, like he said in his tweet, "Mighty cold day in hell." Uh,
Yeah, that was
uh,
crazy. But yeah, I mean, I
and
watched it on replay last night and today. I
mhm,
enjoyed it. The war game part was excellent. Both the men and the women's like, man, I liked it. It was a good event
uh, yeah, it should get some buzz going for
for sure.
WWE for sure. In
Yeah,
a time of the year when it's pretty quiet for them.
yeah.
So that's certainly something huge going for them. But as I said, always check out the alabamatake.com for all of our podcast and writings. Yeah, that's about it, folks. Keep it done up real good out there yourselves. Greg, take it easy, bud.
Me too, buddy.